Buying a dental practice is one of the most important and most significant decisions that you're going to make during your career. While it took me a little bit more than a year to buy my first dental practice, with the right approach, you can achieve this goal in under 6 months. This video is going to walk through exactly what you can do right now to be prepared for practice ownership. Number 1, preparing clinically. Before you buy your practice, you want to make sure that you're comfortable producing something like $5,000 to $6,000 a day. You want to make sure that you're comfortable doing hygiene checks and jumping back and forth between multiple patients at the same time. Become skilled at proposing comprehensive treatment plans and work on your ability to close and sell treatment. The truth is, you don't have to know everything before becoming an owner, but the more you can learn now, the better prepared you're going to be. Now, number 2, don't just focus on the clinic, but start paying attention to the business of how a dental practice is run. If you buy a fully functional business, you'll probably never have to do these things yourself, but you want to make sure that you're able to communicate to your employees what needs to be done. Pay attention to sterilization, understand how to order supplies, look at how the front desk is managing patients, get a basic understanding of insurance, and understand how scheduling works. Even in well-established practices, there are probably ways that the business can be improved. Start looking around now for ways that you can improve the business that you're currently in. Step number 3, save $50,000 to $75,000 in an emergency fund. When it's time to look for a practice loan, the banks want to see that you are financially responsible. And so it's basically become a standard across the dental finance industry to expect dentist buying practices to have $50,000 to $75,000 saved up. Luckily, you're not going to have to use this money as a down payment. However, you have to have it in a bank, a checking or a savings account. It can't be tied up in investments. Resist the urge to pay down student loans. You're gonna have to pay your minimums, but don't pay anything extra. Now is the time to save. Once you're a practice owner, you'll be making so much money that it'll be easy to pay off those student loans quickly. Number 4, now it's time to find a practice to buy. Maybe you're lucky to already know someone who's selling, but for most of us, we have to find a practice to buy. Start reaching out to practice brokers, supply reps, and dentists in the area to look for practices that are for sale. Start thinking about where you wanna live, if you wanna live in a city, if you wanna live in a rural area. Start making those decisions now. You're going to find that some cities and some areas have more practices for sale than others. Some areas you're going to be able to start right away, but some areas you're going to have to look for a while before a practice comes to market. Try to be as flexible as you can. The more flexible you are, the better deal you're going to be able to find. Number 5. Don't do this alone. Would you spend $500,000 to $1 million to buy something that you've never bought before when you don't even completely understand the process of how it works? The practice seller is probably paying a practice broker something like $50,000 to $100,000. The practice broker is going to be looking out for the best interests of the seller. If you know someone who's recently purchased a dental practice, go and talk to them and learn everything you can from them. Talking to someone who's been through this process is invaluable. Now, if you don't have a friend or family member who's recently gone through this process, do not be afraid to hire some help. You're about to make what is both the biggest purchase of your life, but also the most important purchase of your life. Now is the time to look for help. Make sure you have someone helping you who has been through this process before. Finally, step number 6, time to buy the practice. The first step when you buy a practice is you're going to submit an LOI. That's a letter of intent. The LOI is where you agree on a purchase price and you agree on all the other aspects of the sale. Once both parties have agreed to the letter of intent, it's time to go through the due diligence process. Due diligence is the investigation process that you go through when you're preparing to buy a dental practice. You want to make sure that the practice you're buying is going to be providing you with the type of income that you're expecting. You're going to be looking at financial statements, practice reports. You want to examine patient records, check out the schedule, make sure everything is good with staff contracts, understand the lease agreements. You want to make sure you're looking at every aspect of this dental practice. You want to make sure that this practice is going to provide the same or greater income going into the future. This is why it was important for you to pay attention to how the business was being run at your associate job. Make sure you're not doing this part alone, but that you have someone helping you to make sure you're not missing anything important. The practice broker is going to act like they're on your side here, but don't fall for it. The broker works for the seller, not for the buyer. This is also where you're going to be looking for financing. Assuming you've saved up the $50,000 to $75,000 that we talked about, and assuming you've found a functional business that has a positive cash flow, then banks are going to be throwing money at you. Buying a dental practice is one of the safest investments you can make, and the banks know this. Now, the final step before closing is you're going to sign what's called an APA, an asset purchase agreement. This is the official document that you're going to sign on the day of closing before giving the keys to the practice. You definitely want to make sure a lawyer goes through these papers with you and make sure everything checks out. This is not an exhaustive list of everything you need to do to buy a practice, but this is how you get started. So the key takeaways: even while working as an associate, start getting ready for ownership. Save up a decent emergency fund. Find someone who's gone through this process before to help you if any problems come up, and start looking for practices to buy right now. Make sure to check out the book Buying Freedom, link in the description, if you're interested in a more detailed walkthrough of the practice purchasing process. Get started today. Once you become a practice owner, your life will never be the same.